DreamWorks, Disney, Illumination, and Studio Ghibli. All of these different companies have one common theme: producing animated films. And throughout the years, decades, and centuries, we have gotten some absolute classics from these companies from all across the world. But not all movies get the same treatment. And through cancellation, being put on hold, or not even being made at all, gotten a massive catalog of lost films from this medium. Among all companies with cancelled films, Disney remains as king. Due to their massive catalog of cancelled films, it was really hard to pick one topic for this video, but I decided to go with one movie that, despite being somewhat obscure, could have had a huge impact if it did release. This film is known as The Search for Mickey Mouse. This was a cancelled film in 2002 that was supposed to be released in theaters to commemorate Mickey Mouse's 75th anniversary. Film got inspiration from the removed scene from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where all of Disney characters from that point in time would be in a roller coaster car as a gag. And despite this scene never appearing in the final film, it will lead to the inspiration and the main selling point of this film, but we'll get to that pretty soon. The plot itself surrounded Mickey Mouse being kidnapped. This would lead to Minnie Mouse, Goofy, and Donald Duck traveling around the world to find him. Along the way, they would encounter many familiar faces from across the Disney catalog. With there being a plan to have multiple Disney characters to make an appearance throughout the entire film. This ambitious plan for the movie would eventually lead to its cancellation, due to how difficult it was to make a proper plot surrounding this idea. There was speculation about the movie releasing in 2011 to commemorate Disney's Animation Studios' 50th film, but that movie ended up being Tangled instead. And 20 years since its cancellation, the movie's more lost than ever, with no screenshots or other material from the film ever resurfacing. Among the titans in the animation industry, there were a few small companies with big ideas. VeggieTales, made by Big Idea, was a computer-animated series released on DVDs and focused on telling stories with vegetables and Christian morals. Around the mid-2000s, Big Idea had planned for a VeggieTales movie simply called the Bob and Larry Movie to be released in 2005. The basic plot of the film would have focused on how Larry and Bob met before the events of VeggieTales, with Bob being a local news host for a segment called Farm Report, and Larry being a chicken tester at the local chicken hat factory. And both would end up meeting each other through chicken hat related antics. Alongside the main plot, there are also other elements from the film, such as a synopsis in the beginning relating to the importance of vegetables throughout human history, and humans appearing in the film, including a character known as Dexter, who has unknown plot significance to the film, and the movie having a villain, who would later be reused in another VeggieTales product. Besides those details, nothing else about the movie is known, despite there being a full script of the film that was made. But as we speak, the script is behind company walls, and the only other elements of the film to have resurfaced are concept art and a glimpse of a color script of the film. Truckers, or a book series made by Terry Pratchett that was planned to be adapted into a single film and was planned from 2001 to 2011. The story sees a group of creatures trying to convince another living colony in a department store that there's a world that extends beyond the shop walls. Film first started back in 2011 when DreamWorks gained the rights to the book, and they announced the plans that they could combine all the three books into one. Alongside this information came an interview. This discusses a lot of questions, including which director they got, the reason DreamWorks was picked, and the other struggles they would face by adapting the three books into one. It also mentioned the main heads of the project, Andrew Adamson as a director and Zoe Stillman as a screenwriter. Through these interviews and other statements on the film, you could tell the excitement among the team for this film and the development that would soon follow. This would, however, fall apart among the following years. In 2008, a complete redevelopment was in production, with Danny Boyle now being assigned as a director. But due to the current state of the following economic crisis in DreamWorks, the movie would fall apart once again. Other directors would come and went to the project, but all of those were in vain too, and the project itself is now permanently cancelled, with the only impact left being through its utter impact on another DreamWorks movie. Among the list of terrible video game movies, there's also a list of cancelled video game movies that were once planned but never happened. Among these includes Clonowa. Clonowa is a Namco franchise of 2.5D platformers that first started life on the PlayStation. Despite these games being somewhat obscure, Namco has done their best to say otherwise. This includes putting an anime adaptation of the franchise into production, simply known as Clonowa. This was first announced back in 2018 by Hinson at TIFFCon, and was planned to take place in the same timeline as the games. We also got information on the people who are working on this movie. This includes Rob Perida as the producer, Hitoshi Ariga as the co-producer, and Ash Paulson as the associate producer. Last but not least, Hideo Yoshisawa as a producer. The development of this movie had a pretty mysterious development cycle after its announcement, but it was still confirmed that the movie was in production by Ariga on Twitter. During this wait period, we were also spoon-fed a couple of concept art from the film. In December 31st of 2018, the official Clonowa Twitter account would confirm that the movie was no longer with them. It was later confirmed by Ariga on Twitter that the movie was cancelled due to production issues. Following these tweets, Tekken producer Kasahiro Harada would make a tweet longer discussing more insight on the film. This included information like Namco barely having any involvement with the film besides having a deadline. More importantly, the cause of the movie's cancellation was because of Hinson themselves. The concept art of the film is the only information of the film we have right now, and it's pretty likely it was some of the only material that was made for the film. Scooby-Doo Holiday Hunt is a prequel to the 2022 film Scoob. The plot of the movie surrounded the Mystery Inc. gang going to a holiday-themed resort to celebrate Scooby-Doo's 10th birthday. Due to a ghost invasion, the Mystery Inc. gang now has to solve a mystery, while Scooby-Doo learns the real meaning of Christmas. Development of this film went super smooth, to a point where the entire movie was pretty much complete. But due to the current state of WB at the time, the movie's release was cancelled. As we speak, the only information to have ever made its way online includes a few screenshots of the film and a small snippet from a sizzle reel. Can You Imagine was a cancelled Sony animated film first announced in 2014. The movie was supposed to be directed by Gindi, who's responsible for directing the Hotel Transylvania movies. The plot of the movie would have been based on an adventure taking place inside an imagination of a boy, and was supposed to release in July 13th of 2018. This date would eventually be replaced by Hotel Transylvania 3, and a 2017 concept art of the movie would resurface on Instagram, where it was stated that the movie was never made. Let's move on from the west to the east once again. Zozo's Bizarre Adventure was a manga that was first published back in 1987. And ever since then, the manga series has become popular in both the East and even the West as of recently. But among all of the merchandise, video games, and continuations, there was one other type of medium, that being animation. And despite the most well-known being David Productions, they weren't the first company to do it. The first studio to adapt this manga was APP Productions. APP, which I'm gonna call them for now, is a Japanese animation studio, and among their work includes 2 pieces of Zozo media, a OVA of Part 3 and a feature-length film of Phantom Blood. Phantom Blood was first announced at the Tokyo International Anime Fair in 2004 with a teaser trailer. Following its unveil, more information of the movie would release, including a PS2 title that was also in production as well. The movie would eventually release on February 17th of 2007 and it would last until April 9th of the same year. But after its original run on features, Phantom Blood would disappear and would never be seen again. The reason that was the case remains unknown, but people speculate it could have related to a controversy relating to the Part 3 OVA showing the Quran, or less plausible theories like Araki hating the film due to the lack of speedwagon. Those types of theories either remain as unconfirmed or simply deconfirmed. What we do know about the film is that it's very different compared to the David Productions release and even the original manga itself. Some of the more notable details include Speedwagon being cut, Dio's inner monologue not appearing in the film, and a few extra and altered scenes being added in. Alongside this came a bunch of cut content from the manga, which isn't too surprising looking at APP's previous work, but it still is a noteworthy note nonetheless. As we speak, the Phantom Blood movie is still lost, with the only footage resurfacing coming from a decade-old video from a school project. Despite this, the community for this movie has remained strong, leading to a bunch of magazine scans, merchandise, and information from the film being uncovered. Despite that being great finds, that isn't everything. And until everything from Phantom Blood and all the other movies I mentioned in this video gets found, then the mystery of Phantom Blood and all the other animated films on this video will still remain a mystery.